today. Victoria, Vivi. That's what Tim says, Vivi.
Yes, because my name changed.
You changed? Why? Why did you change?
Because I got married
So
back in
sad.
August.
Sorry.
Yes. So I'm here again to talk about Orchard Harvest. I put a link into the chat because we have a form for the panel discussion where you can leave questions and topics in advance for our participants for the panel discussion. And we already have 4 incredible participants for the panel discussion. We only need our irreplaceable moderator, Sebastian, if you understand it.
I will listen to what you say.
I haven't got an answer from you if we can count on you to be the moderator for the panel discussion.
We'll see. Maybe.
Okay, so maybe we have our moderator as well. And and I encourage you to leave topics because we will try to talk about all of the topics that you suggest. We are looking for topics that we don't have enough time during the busy business hours. So now we could have time to chat about it. Yeah, probably regarding Orchard core development, but we will see the topics.
If we have time, okay.
Yeah, if we have time, we can.
I always have the best topics. I will submit some topics. There's a form for that. Thank you.
What about shapes?
Oh, it's boring.
We will talk about shapes.
It's boring.
You should talk about AI. No conference with no AI nowadays.
Yeah, we have one talk about AI as well, but yeah, of course, we should talk about at the panel discussion as well. And just one more thing, I really appreciate that a lot of you are reposting my posts, and we have new participants each day, luckily. We got today, I think, 3 more participants, so it's really great, and I hope that more will come in the next days. Oh, they will also come, but others as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Vivi? Vivian?
No, it's Victoria still.
Victoria. Oh,
that stayed.
Congratulations, Victoria.
Thank you.
Dude, are you married, Mike?
18 years.
Dude, why do you say congratulations? It's the beginning of the end.
Not for her, for him.
Well, that's mean.
That's true.
I won't tell him that.
I've met him. Is it the same one? Maybe it's
Yeah,
different one.
it's the
Okay,
same one.
I don't know. All right, things can go quick.
No. He's the same for a long time now.
We don't know. Things can go quick. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Okay, this was the Victoria show, harvest stuff, and then next week, today we have demos and topics. Nothing. So we'll do the orchard one topic. I won't say anything. I will let Benedek explain what he's doing.
Well, we have some interesting news for Orchard 1. There's a new release. It's 1.10.4. So that is 6.5 years, I think, between 1.10.3 and 1.10.4. But we have a new release finally. So that's nice. I'm working on the dev branch with some further updates, client-side libraries, and also NuGet packages. Client-side libraries is basically done. Just need some more testing and verification, and I'm working on the NuGet package updates now. Actually, was doing that today and in the last couple of days. And then we will have some further fixes, some contributions from our client projects, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm not sure, we might have 1.11 before harvest, but we'll see.
So I reached.
Surely you don't have to search for.
Yes, I
for
do.
the
Like
repository.
this link, the legacy website. But
Oh, so the old. I don't think that's available now. You mean the old Orchard 1 website or the documentation?
that's the one. Look at the links. You see the source, like it will go on the Orchard 1.
Okay.
But I can't find a link to this page. I googled it, but I thought that it was there, like legacy. There was a link to legacy something.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't find it
remember
anymore.
we have that.
I can't find it anymore. I can reach it, but I can't find the link. And then I was wondering, is there a link to the latest version? But yeah, there is a link to download, which contains releases.
Yeah.
Which contains this thing here.
Yeah, so that's a pretty nice and long list of changes. There's 165 pull requests or commits that actually have some meaningful change that went into this.
Cool, thank you. No non-breaking change, sure.
Yeah, take that with a grain of salt.
Because
yeah, if there's a bug report about a breaking change, then I will update it too.
there's 120 PRs, but no breaking change. We'll see.
Yeah, debatable.
Including major package upgrades, but no. Well, in the public API, maybe not, but yeah, we'll see.
Mm.
Updating my download. For one.
That actually might be a breaking change. And I just updated it on dev in my pull request to the very latest version. But I don't know about that specific upgrade. Yeah, it was 7 years ago. That's insane.
So number 5 is the correlation. Well, good job.
Thank you.
And then some dev branch work. Finding redirects everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's on the NuGet PR branch, but I reverted that because there was some weird error, so I got rid of that.
Can you actually do that? Look. Version 4. Is it open source? I don't remember.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
I don't know if it's open source.
Ah, yeah. By the way, we do have some NuGet packages with the Orchard namespace, and I can't find the source for those, so that's a bit weird. One of them is actually developed by Bertrand, I know, but there are some. I think it was Orchard.Azure or Orchard.Windows Azure something. That was, let me see.
If you have the package, then you can.
Yeah, the NuGet package is still up. So I was just wondering why is there no GitHub repo or something?
Maybe there is somewhere, but you know, and diagnostics. So it's probably a fork of Windows Azure Diagnostics that had bugs. Maybe we did. Maybe missing the thing, and then unofficial Microsoft Windows Advanced. Yeah, you see, like we're not the only one to do that. It must be a reason, yeah.
Yeah, I even saw like a fork of MVC published by someone as a NuGet package. So yeah, that happens.
Okay. Orchard 1, Orchard Core. What do we have? We are the 14th source. That's it, nothing. 6, 8. What we have? So the 2.1 was released. We talked about it. Fixed typo in text field, pattern in. That's it. Pattern used to render the title of this content type. Sounds good to me. The pattern used to generate the value for this field.
It was a copy and paste issue.
Copy paste. I see. Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah, it makes sense. It's nice, but it's not correct. It's not the correct context. Good. Fix using shape morphing together with dynamic shape caching. Did you merge the latest thing? Probably not, because you're waiting for someone like me to say.
I'm waiting for you.
Oh, why you wait for me? Why you wait for me? Honestly, if I wanted to be an ass, which I am always, I would say we don't care, but we'll see the discussion. Okay. So this PR, this change here, this change is, so last week we did a long session about what was not working in my branch, and we found out that dynamic caching was not compatible with the shape morphing feature. And this PR from George is fixing it by handling multiple cache context per shape, all depending on the current type that it's rendering. So if the shape is morphing, then it will get multiple cache context with the same ID. What we have, so and we test to verify that it's working. So George made a dictionary of cache context indexed by the type of the shape type, and is checking if the type that we're rendering is in this dictionary, getting the cache context for this type and using it all along. And so this was there. So I assume there is another PR here. No, where? What? Didn't you change that?
That's in the other PR.
In the other.
It's
so
not merged yet.
This one.
I removed this change.
This one, or is there yet another one? I didn't see.
No, this one is right.
Okay, cool. And yes, and that maybe I would explain what we discovered and rediscovered on Thursday. So George here is trying to make the cache ID unique such that in memory we have different contents for the requested cache ID from the tag. The tag has a cache ID, like my username of the author in this page. Okay. And because we morph the shape with different types, and we want, in this case, to be able to store the shape for each morphed shapes, the cache for each morphed shape, the cache ID is altered such that there are 3 different values in memory, okay, for each type. And what we learned is that no, the cache ID should be unique. What should vary is something in the cache context that says you vary by the type also, the same way you vary by the username or whatever user is currently displayed, or the theme or whatever. Okay, all these variations is discriminator. And to say that, you actually pass this value in as a dependency in the cache context, as a context. And if this value doesn't find any dynamic resolution, like if there is no external component that will replace this value by a dynamic value, then it will take the value as is. In the shape metadata cache context property class. So the change for this thing in the end in XPR you will see is that the cache ID will become the cache ID. It won't be changed. And the type will be added as a context.
Actually, I further simplified this by not altering by type anymore. So you just have to specify a cache ID manually, because you already do this if you render any shape. And if you morph, you can specify a different cache ID. This allows you to also have a morphed shape cached separately in another view. And this makes the whole thing really simple. So all of this change with the cache ID and type is not required.
Okay. No more shape wrappers also, because it was missing up with the logic. So the logic is now injected directly in this event. If the debug mode is enabled, then it's rendered with cache value, otherwise just a cache value. That, and that's all goes away. And in this PR, another change is, the latest change in this PR is that the dictionary won't be used if it's not used, if it doesn't have to be used. So it will be free for most of the things, and only when there is morphing with caching, then the dictionary will be used. That's better. And the last comment, I was suggesting that, because now it's supporting all the things, like there is a test that supports that even the morphed shapes are cached. And I was even suggesting then maybe maybe something I wrote is maybe we don't need to cache the morphed shapes and we can just cache the main shape and say that it's cached or invalidated and done. We don't have to cache just the title, just the icon, because it's so niche that maybe the code is not worth ending the variations. But it's working, so we'll take it. Remember, if one day we have an issue, we just say, okay, let's not try to handle that and just cache at the top level and not the sub level. So shape morphing, then Mike was unblocked. And the user display name tag could work correctly. So there's a new tag, there is documentation about the new tag. It shows that you can provide a display type and you can provide a cache ID to enable the cache. And so this title was there before, but
Get cache ID. If you don't provide one will be set. So it's always cached.
Oh.
Yeah, this is only if you want to control like a different, like if you
say
want
that.
to. So we'll always cache that object.
I can't see that in the documentation. That might be something to add because I would not guess that without it it's cached. That's nice, but because it's there, I could be confused that what if it's not there? Okay. I believe for the menu we don't. It's also done by default. I'm not sure we can pass. Oh, yeah, I assume yes, maybe for menu it also works. I don't know if for menu it also works. But so in theory, you would not have to define that anywhere and it will just work because it's usually rendered the same way. It's just if you want to render it in a different way, then you may provide that. And I don't even know what would be different, like a different property like this. If you add the title, then it will render differently, so you want a different cache ID. Probably. Title. Okay. So new user display name tag, username, name. Display type. So why do you provide a cache ID in this case?
The reason why, because we have an author. So in this case, the tag or the badge will have an author as a title. In other places where we have the badge called username,
You don't have title.
Yeah, title is the author in this case. And then if you look at
you still have title everywhere. Okay.
Well, yeah, but then you have also like in the audit trail. Look at the audit trail. it's not a title, it's a username.
Oh, but you still have a title. That's what I mean. Everywhere.
Yeah, it is, but the title value is different. So it has a different type of value or meaning to the value.
Yeah. So, and I say that because I think the discriminator here should not. Now I understand because it was author and the title was author, but the name was author. So I'm like, no, we should not differentiate from the thing that is in the username. But what you differentiate from here is the title. So in this case, yes, this is title username. And that is passed here because if you didn't have title, you could use the same cache ID for the author username and for the username or whatever, the auditor username. So because this is cached by username already. So it's really because of the title that you need to have a different thing here. That's why I was confused, and then I realized it's the title, not that thing. So not that thing. Okay. Cool. Before that change, what were we displaying directly the value of the name here?
I don't know the question or the
Before the tag, what were we displaying?
Just the author name.
Author name. Okay. I'm wondering because if we might have been loading the user object to render something, and that's why also we had the display name also was available, display text or whatever for the author. And now because it's cached, you could say, oh, you can go crazy and load the user, it will be cached. So if you need to re-render the user, then it can use custom data because it's cached. So it should be fast. Okay, thank you. Now, George, simplify using string values in liquid templates. So the idea is to provide custom fluid value type for string values because it's coming from some request objects. Where do we use that? There is no example here, but like if you get the HTTP request, you get some query string elements or headers as string values. And probably the current conversion using an array or not, then it might not work correctly. I don't know exactly why you have to do that.
It was always converted to an array.
Okay. So we always had to allocate an array every time we had query strings and headers.
This new also simplifies accessing it if you only have a single value. So you don't have to use an indexer.
To get the first value, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it's already an array, you have to say dot first to get the first value. Now, because it's a fluid value, there is an implicit conversion to a value, which is which property? No, not the get value. Yeah, the get value async. No, not the get value async. Which one? The to string value.
To string value. Yeah.
So in this case, when you ask for the property itself, and you don't say square bracket 0 to get the first value, you will get the first value. So it will work. So if there is one value and you expect one value, you just say, give me the value. But if there are many, you can still iterate or get an index around that. It's better. And it supports the same properties as an array. Size first, last. That's great.
Yeah, this should behave the same as before.
Yeah. Because before we were forced to use the square bracket 0.
Right.
Elasticsearch updates. Other dependency updates. The SQL package update, which contains a fix that might be. Fix was to clear the limit offset filter when you do a count query. Before that, if you were to do a list and then a count, it would not clear the paging of the list before doing the count. Now it's doing it. Materials and KLOX update and other again. No, this is Azure this time, not AWS. Ooh, that's a big-ish but jump. So some press. Oh, did I miss some 5 actually? No. Yep. Good. All the change videos. Questions, topics?
If you want to look at that first draft of that Redis, I don't know your thoughts on it. I haven't tested it yet.
I should have thoughts on it. Because I think I implemented it in Aspire. Let me check. There's no issue, but sometimes it's one. Security best practices. Yeah, I think I had some thought about all these things at some point. How do we support that? So, what have you done? Without context, I'm not a fan of something like this yet. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, that might be good. Something like that. That's very interesting. That triggers so many thoughts because so when I first read that, I'm like, I don't like it. But now I see that, now I think I understand what you mean, because you want to configure the token credential you want to use. And today, there is no way to configure which token credentials you want to use. And the SDK team is working on that to integrate, to add first-class support for configuring the method you want there, because there is no such thing today. So they are currently coming with their solution, which would be good, right? And that you will be able to use, but not today. And why do they want to do that? Probably for the same reasons that you are doing this, which is by default when you want to get a credential type. So here, for Azure, you need a token. To get a token, there are many ways, like 10 ways to get a token. It could be because your application runs already in Azure, in a VM. It could be because you have Visual Studio installed and you can connect to Azure with that. It could be because you have YesSql. It could be because your CLI is currently authenticated. So there are many ways. Or it could be because you want to pop up with a browser to log in. These are all distinct implementations of token credential. These are just 3 of them out of the 10 existing. And the default one, the default Azure credential, is actually a wrapper of all the other ones. And what it will do is it will instantiate the first one, see if it can get a token from it. And if it can't, it takes the next one, and so on and so forth, until it goes through every ways to authenticate to Azure. and says, no, I can't authenticate, or it finds one. And the issue with that is it will probably do lots of requests to a service or to an API all the time, every time you want to connect, while there is no reason to test it. Like if it's asking for Visual Studio credentials and you don't have Visual Studio, it will still ask for it. So it's lost time. Or if, I don't know, like if it needs to do an API call to the CLI and then you don't have that, then it's also useless. And so it can take like seconds before you get an actual credential. But if you know exactly what you need, like you are running the CLI, or you want to use Visual Studio, or you are using Managed Entity, which is mostly what you usually need, then it's much faster to just say, just use that. It will work. And if it doesn't work, don't try anything else. Or you should not try to open the browser, or you should try to open the browser. All these options, you have to set them by code to them. So that's why you may want, and I think that's why you added it in options here with the auth type to say what auth credential to use. So we don't use always default Azure credential, which is the default. Mike, you can say something if I'm right or wrong, or if you have both.
You're right, but keep moving so you can probably see the whole thing and then give me all your thoughts without me.
And just a quick note, isn't this also related to something like, for example, blob storage?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we have this
for
thing. Everything?
Yes, that's why this issue is interesting, because, well, we might want to do that for everything, not just Redis.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay,
we should have some sort of authentication for anything Azure related.
And we might want, so instead of having something like this, maybe we just want to expose an enum with all the types, not call it just Redis. And then for the modules, we could then provide one by one some options for this module to say what's the authentication type and all these properties. Okay. I will also show you maybe what we do in StringValues.
Do we actually need anything else than managed IT and secrets here? Because if you are hosting in Azure, then you would use managed identity. If you are using it locally, like for testing, or you use the legacy approach, that would be secret.
No, you use default Azure credential, because it can be Azure CLI, it can be Visual Studio, and it's not client secret. Client secret is using like a service account, a service principal, which is mostly what you don't want to do. Never. It's either, I would say, managed entity or Azure CLI or Visual Studio or YesSql or browser. You never use client secret.
Okay, then so what I mean is the connection string. So what's currently the only option we have.
And the connection string will say, use my entity or use the token. And you will see, but not all the services here take a connection string that accepts the type of credential. Like SQL Server will do, but I don't think Redis does. Maybe some, and some connection string you can even pass the token directly, or it needs the token directly, the token that you get from the credential itself. So you still need to decide which one you want here, even with the connection string sometimes. That's not easy, right? It's super complicated. Okay, so we have an options. So ideally, what we should be able to support is at least to say, I want to use my entity, such that you don't have to provide any credential. You just say my entity, and your app will run in production. Otherwise, will work whatever it's doing today. But if you have these two, well, if you have this one, you're safe, at least. And I believe that's what it's probably doing today. I don't know. We'll see with the PR. Token provider. Okay, so
look at this. Look at the other class, the factory first. Don't look at this.
Factory?
Let's look at it a second. Yeah, go down. You'll see the changes that I've made to the factory, and then you can come back to this one. I think it makes sense that way. It's a Redis database factory. It's a pre-existing class.
That's an existing class. Okay, I see. The one that creates the connection, whatever, connection multiplexer and so on. Create async. Redis options. I'm just looking on the left to understand what's happening today. So a lazy thing that says connect async using options, that configuration options. Options, and what is that thing? So this is something that we have in the app settings today, configuration options.
Yeah, that's something we eventually populate from the configuration string that the user provides.
I look at it. So
it's in the startup of Redis module.
So it's not there.
It is. It should be. We should have a sample of it.
So some
search Redis.
Okay. So configuration today is a string. That's why I wanted to see what is the configuration. Yeah. So it's a connection string.
It's a connection string, but then we also take it and create configuration options out of it as well. So
we bind that section to a configuration option, and you will show me where. Options. So somewhere in the startup
of Redis. I don't like it, but that's what we're doing. I don't like it because we're doing some work doing building the container. So you'll see here in the try catch, we're grabbing that section and then we're parsing these configuration.
Oh, so this is a string that is parsed.
Yep, it's giving us a configuration options.
So we expand the string to Redis options. Wait. Configuration options. Where is that?
So the configuration is as the string, which later will be used as identification for the multiplexer. But then we also parse that to create a configuration option. So we have more of a typed object. That's a part of the Redis Stack Overflow.
Oh. So this Stack Overflow reads that thing, which is a string. Let me increase that for you. Right.
Yeah, as a host, username, password, or whatever.
Okay, so So that's necessary for Stack Overflow. This configuration is necessary for Stack Overflow.
Yes.
So it's parsed and then get value. This is the default. Okay, so section. And then from other properties that it doesn't understand, like this one, well, that it doesn't parse from, something like that, like this one, or this one. Then we set the value of the configuration options. And that needs some comments.
This right here shouldn't be here at all. Like we shouldn't have to store configuration option in the other options. This should be computed when we create a database, because it's a one-time thing anyway. So it shouldn't be in here. That's what I don't like, but I didn't want to make more change. So you see here, we're line 42, we're taking the configuration string and then we're creating the configuration options. And then if you look at line 59, we're storing that option inside the Redis options. And I think the only place we use it is when we create the database in the factory. So like, I don't think this should be stored here at all. I think it just should be computed when we need it in the lazily, and then it would be called. So
then if all this code is in a lambda like this, then this is what will happen, right? When it's resolved, then it will bind this options context, or it will configure this options context.
Yeah, but what I don't like here is that the use of try catch in the startup. I think that's a bad practice. We shouldn't be doing that. And see what they're doing here. They're basically not registering service. You see those services below? They are not registered if we don't have valid configuration.
But
I
does it
think
make sense?
I don't know.
I think because it's like configuration validation, we don't start if the configuration is wrong. And we tell you, no, don't start, your configuration is wrong. Don't we have some I validate something on options to verify that options are correct or not?
Yeah, I think that's a new pattern they introduced in like a recent .NET versions, I
And
think.
I think we use that, and we might also be the same, like if it can't be loaded, would fail. I'd like to know what to do. And
I think what they're doing here, the only reason why this code exists is to prevent registering the services below line 68 unless we have a valid configuration. If you don't have valid configuration, we don't even have these services.
Kind of makes sense because it will still throw later. It will say you can't connect or whatever. So I don't mind that. And there is an error saying, no, it doesn't work. Your configuration is wrong. Please fix it and restart.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different discussion.
And it's not even trying to connect. It's just trying, it's invalid. Like something is wrong. I can't pass your configuration. It's not saying the server can't be accessed. It's saying, no, what you type is wrong. So yeah, I say that failing on startup, if the config is wrong, then that should be the case. Okay, PR. So now you have the configuration is there. The configuration up to the Redis options. So we have the Redis options. And get or add.
That part didn't change. And one thing I should mention here is that factories is static. So it's static, meaning we have the configuration. So we have one database for every tenant, because it's per configuration that would create the factory and that return the same database. Just so you don't miss that.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, but you see what you said here? Because you don't miss that. Yeah, that's very important. I get it, because this is the instance of the option, which is, I'm not even sure, actually. I will not even say that that's what's happening here. Because it's static, but if you have two tenants, I think they will get two configuration objects. So
it will be the same configuration object, because this is coming from the app settings.
I don't agree. It's doing configuration options with parse. Is that this option, or this is this Redis option, right? This instance.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
But the services that configure, it's coming from the service collections here. So it's a singleton at the services collection here, which is pertinent. I don't think it's.
Yeah, but the configuration of it, the value of it, it's the same value for all the tenants. So you can get the value multiple times, each time for a different tenant, but the value is the same. So when you're creating the factory, you're using the connection string from the app settings, for example, and then you're saving that as the key to try get multiplexer or database.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought it was the options that was the key, because this one is not it, but the configuration is a string. Yes, thank you. That's what I mean. This is the string of it. I was reading the code like this is that. No, this is a different instance pertinent. This one is a string that is okay. And yeah, that should be a comment explaining this is explicitly on configuration because we want to reuse the same connection if the connection string is the same. And then you have an issue. Maybe you have an issue because if it's not authentic, if it's authenticated using managed entity or whatever, maybe your tenants have different. No, it's the same database, so that's fine. Because as long as it's the same target, then you should have the same connection. The only thing might be that You might have a connection authenticated by something else, but we should assume that it's not the case, not true.
You can still have a configuration per tenant, right?
Yes.
And here,
even
but
in the app settings.
But it's oh, that's super dangerous.
I think the key should only be the host, port, and then a database, the ID of the database. That should be a sufficient key instead of putting the whole string. But again, this is irrelevant.
Careful. That's super. Like I will talk to .nest now. .nest does multi-tenancy. Tell me if I'm wrong. And
Yep,
as a tenant owner, maybe I can change the Redis I want to connect to. Maybe. I don't know if it's a possibility. And if I could say that, if I could change which Redis instance I want to connect to, then now I can connect to any Redis instance of the other tenants. So we should have a comment saying, as long as nobody can change the configuration for a tenant, it's safe. Otherwise, you can reuse the connection from someone else because you guess the name of the host of the Redis and you inherit the connection. You don't even have to authenticate anymore. You get the connection directly. If you can just provide a configuration string, if you can provide some code, you are unsafe for any reason. It's not even the point. But if you can provide some configuration now without authentication, you can access the Redis instance. But that's true also for SQL Server and everything, multi-tenancy. So the whole time you have to safeguard .nest so you can't change the configuration string, even without credential. Because
yeah, you can't, and you can't change any of this configuration anyway. So we have a feature to change this on a per tenant level in the database and not just in app settings or something. But that's only for us as the operators of the platform. So obviously that's an option for everyone, but that's not a problem.
And it's a lesson also for us to not provide anything in the UI like these settings, like
there isn't. The only settings is the app settings for us.
So remember, for any other module, when we see connection strings, we should not try to provide them in the UI. Okay, it's just app settings for security reasons. Good. If you can access the settings, you can access anything in the app. So that's what the boundary is. Okay. So now you say same thing, log, and now service provider, get service. So you want the Redis token provider because you want to do an indirection for how to connect. And before that, here, you can't connect to Redis unless you have a connection string with a password in this case, which can be safe, like in an environment Bible or keyboard or whatever, but you had to provide a password in the connection string. And so,
which is another problem because now you're using the password in the key for the factories. I don't know if we log it. I don't think we log it, so it shouldn't be a problem. But if we ever log the key, then we're exposing the password as well.
That's also why. I learned something. Maybe I learned it. I think I learned it differently than Orchard. And that's exactly what you just mentioned. So if I take a SQL Server connection string, you know these ones, right? We learned how to program on this connection string, the SQL Server. So this thing here, you all know about this kind of connection string. And if you use that in Visual Studio and you try to debug it to look at the code, the value, the password is always hidden, right? Because that's what you said, like if you log it or if you debug it and you see the password, you don't want to see the password, like on your screen to be shared by someone. You share your screen, you don't want to see it. And so it's hidden, right? So the toString doesn't render the password. But there is a way to see that. And there is a property. And I never knew what it was. And now I know what it is. You know what? Is it this thing? I think this is this thing. I think this is the trust connection. So SQL Server connection string. This is not that. Oh wait, SQL. Which one is? That's not trusted connection. That's not integrated security. There is a property that we usually always set, and I forgot what was that. That is actually the thing to. I think that's trusted connection. That's what I'm worried, because integrated security is to use Windows authentication. So I think that's, so maybe the doc is wrong in what I found, but I think that's this one that will actually hide or show the password in the connection string when it's rendered. So there is a property like that. And and that's what you said, which is when the connection string contains the password, we should not log it. And that's the security on SQL Server connection, which is you have to pass a flag to allow the password to be rendered when you log, when you to-string it. Otherwise, it won't show up. But that's also why we should not log any exception that has happening, or so we don't disclose these things. I think you're safe here. The multiplexer will definitely not log everything, or even the exception for sure. That would have been caught already by Microsoft tools or whatever, which is using.
Yeah, but we're also using that inside of our factories dictionary.
Yeah,
which is, again, it's okay because we're not logging it. But if we were to log it, then we have a problem because we'll expose it.
What do you mean by factories?
Look at the factories property, which is the static property. So the try get, we try get by a key, and the key is the connection string, which could potentially have a password.
Interesting. I don't think the key is even disclosed in the code, because again, security reviews, and it's in Microsoft runtime, so this is very, very looked at. So that definitely won't show up. Do you know these two? Let me show you two. You know the sharp develop that I use often? Sharp develop? Come? What? Oh, it's not sharp develop. What is that? What do I mean? The sharp lab? What is the tool that is we were working? Yeah, this one. Sharp lab IO means it always fails. And there is a new one. So it's razor.labs.fyi. Razor. This is the worst name ever. I have to Google it to find lab.razor. I mean, who will read? Oh, so painful. So this is the same thing, but by some Microsoft devs, and it supports Razor also, but you don't care about that. You care because it works very well. It provides the same thing, but it works very well. So I can type Control S to run. If I can type a string, Control S to run, and it says, let's see. Oh boy! Oh boy! It's showing the value of the key.
Yeah, so if we get an exception, we will log the password. And that's why I said even that approach, I think if we just grab the host name and grab, you know, the database ID, that should be enough, or the username even.
No, we can do something else. That's to protect that. We should just hash the thing.
Yeah, or secure it. But anyway, I don't think we need the entire connection string. We don't.
Later.
Yeah.
Well, entire. I don't know what. No, not entire. Depending on what. Just the important things, as you said, the things to connect. I don't know what's in the connection string. What is in the connection string?
Usually you have a host. You have like SSL security.
That right?
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any password there.
Yeah, there is. But you could. Yeah.
Okay, you can have a password. I see what you mean.
Sure.
Yeah,
user and a password. Or you can have a token.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, not in the case of managed entity, but yeah, in this case, yes, you can. So at least we should sanitize it to remove anything when we use it for the key. That would be the best thing to do, actually. But even the IPs, you should not show that.
Yeah, but I think if we take the host, which is in this case the IP address, the port, right, because that's a target, and then the database ID, and that's it, and then just use that as the cache.
But you still can't. If you don't want to disclose, you should not also disclose the IP, and you still need it. So no, you just hash the thing using crypto hash one way and done. With some sorting, and we already do that. Like use data protector. Yeah, done. Use data protector because this is what we use. We already do some hashes. Just data protect it. Put the result in the key and done. And store the key somewhere. Like.
Well, yeah, the data protector does that anyway.
So instead of, because we should not compute it everywhere, but every time, but during the configuration phase, like the dot configure, we should compute the hash and use that as the thing. So we just compute it during setup and then during startup once and for all, and we use that as the key. And done. Okay, so interesting. So let's go back to the thing here. So now the factory, you say provider, get the provider, and then with the provider, if the provider is none, you say just use a config. If there is a provider, then you say get authentication. I think whatever it returns, I don't know here. Apparently it contains a password, okay, and a user. Interesting, because you expose client secret ID. And if you use a service principal, you expose that. I assume that's what you want to pass as the password user. Or maybe this is because, I don't know. No, that's a provider. So,
well, because the password could be a token, a short-lived token.
I would always expect the password to be a token and not have a username.
Correct, most of the time. I added both username and a password in case we have another provider that supports, or
because
so
I see your Azure implementation. Once they don't return a username, they just return a token that you pass as a password.
Correct.
But you said someone could provide username and I see.
So we'll support both because we don't know if other providers might support both.
Interesting. I will not even go there because interesting, because you say you don't provide that in the connection string. You just something else provides.
Well, the connection string supports username and a password.
Yeah, but you could say I don't want to provide it there. There is another provider that will.
And then don't provide it, and it won't override it. So it's there. If you provide a value, we'll override it.
You know what?
If you don't provide it, then we don't do it.
So what I've seen So I'm currently working on connection strings for any language and any database in Aspire. And what I've seen is a lot of providers take always just a token. But if the token is a username password, they encode the token as username, a colon password. So in the end, they always return a token, which is either the token password or the password, the username colon password.
So
That's
there's
cool.
no point of having username and password, just return an access token.
Something like that. Yeah, they call it API token or token. And in the case of Azure, it
Not
will be
access token.
access has some implementation detailing it. Like short-lived access token, you see? Whereas user password is like different. So that's why they never call it access token, they call it token or API token. They are seeing them call them access token, which is more short-lived. That's what I've seen. So, and I can give you
Okay. Yeah,
lots
that's
of
fine. I
examples
could
if you want.
change it to token and forget about the username and password. That's fine. Makes sense, but I didn't think about it.
Okay. Yes, that's pretty simple actually as a PR. And let me see what you do with the password, the user password. Well, if you have a token, where is the code here? Where was I in the factory? Because that's where the logic is. It says if you have, so in Redis, the token is the password. That makes sense. There is no user, just a password which you use. That's the same thing with PostgreSQL, actually, on Azure. PostgreSQL on Azure, same thing. You get the token relational, you pass it there. Done. That might also work the same with SQL Server, but in SQL Server, there is a custom property where you can say something like manage identity. There are multiple ways to say manage identity in SQL Server connection string, and it will by itself create the token credential and get the token and replace the password. So with SQL Server, you don't have to do the get the token, okay, because the driver does that for you. But Postgres driver and Redis driver, you have to do it for the driver. And that's why the SQL Server library depends on Azure Identity. And they will split it. Maybe it's done now, but there will be, if not already, a split between a raw SQL driver that doesn't depend on Azure and one that depends on Azure. Warning, not an error. That's
Yeah, because we're retrying. So you see, I kind of put a 3 attempt retry for now.
oh, merci. Okay, that's cool. I think if you're not in a hurry, we should delay that because I will show that to a colleague to see what you should do. Because we have this Aspire effort that already does something like this, and there is the thing in SDK. So just to tell you what you should do, not do the best thing because like you limit yourself to really methods, maybe you should expose everything. Why just the 3 of them? Also make it more generic. Why do an enum from this module for Redis, where you can use the enum from Azure Identity directly?
Yeah, I agreed. I think we should have a project called
Yes.
orchardcore.azure.core that have things
and
like
then
that.
use that.
Yeah. I actually have similar project in the AI project where I just have one that has all these connections.
And then you have an option object there that you can use in all the modules. You can say bind this section to this option, and then you can then just get a generic token provider and say, oh, for Redis, give me the token for the current connection. So that would be reusable. That would be better. And then people can go crazy and say, I want to enable browser authentication to test it, like you start Orchard and then the browser pops up and you log into the portal like this, and then it continues, like if it's not using Azure CLI. But on the CI, you could use Azure CLI. That would be great. And maybe also start thinking about exploding this file. Instead of putting the thing here, just have a section called Azure Credentials. Okay? And have something common, something by name. And then here in Redis, just mention the name of the Azure credentials you want to use, such that you can reuse the same credentials across multiple providers. For instance, manage entity. For instance, like with a user manage entity, and you provide just the user in one section, and all the things that need that, they can just point to it. The idea would be, so let me
but then what if you have multiple Azure connections?
I will show you. That's why I want to show you. And that would work. So in the option somewhere you will have, like, I will just credentials. Okay, it's called Azure Credentials, but it goes faster. And then there is, let's say, default, where you can provide some settings. Okay, and then you have some names like this one. You can call it Redis one, and then have settings here. And whatever options you have, like here, like provider, say manage identity. And then if it's a user managed entity, you have like username, like user managed identity. I don't know, there is something. And then you can say like my app identity, something like that. Because this provider will require a name, okay? But another provider will require something else.
Maybe you're talking about what I shared in the, I shared a link. I think I do the same thing, but maybe that's what you're talking about.
So where can I find that?
If you go at the down at the info at the, I'm sorry, README, at the README, there's a right there. So we have connections. So in connections, you can have a connection name, and then you can have the configuration for that connection name, like toward the end at the bottom. So you have connection. No, I'm sorry. Where you were looking, the bottom line though. Yeah, right there. Yeah, you see where it say connections, and then you can provide a connection name and then the properties for that connection. So same thing. Maybe we can have a name, whatever we call it, whatever we want, and then provide the configuration for that named connection.
It could be similar, but you need the default. There's something like default in case you, well,
Or you can call one a default, sure.
No, what I mean is that what's interesting is when you have a root configuration, and then like you could say something like this, and then Redis 1 and Redis 2 are inheriting actually from default. That's not something that it's called default. It's just if you have things to share across connection string. So sometimes you can then just something like that. And close it by the default one. Like it's not default, it's like a parent one, right? It's just in case that's useful if you want to have some common things across that you don't want to repeat every time. You just want to have the, like,
Yeah.
so when you bind this section, and then you bind the subsection that you want to load. This way it will override whatever is defined there. So you could have the default for everything, and then just for this one, you could say, oh, I just want this app identity instead of the default one. So you could have like the default identity. And then, oh, but for the other services, then you don't have anything specific, so it will just load default. So if it's like, for instance, for media, you don't want to change anything from default. So there won't be any media. So it won't find a media one to bind. It will just bind the default and say, oh, then I need to use this identity. That's why it's important to have something like default and then be able to change some things for different services. This is not the name of a service. This is the name of a config that you point from the module. That's just an idea. We do that in Aspire for all the services, some kind of default, and then I need to find how it's.
Yeah, I mean, you could also treat the first one to be the default, and then if you don't specify, the first one will be a default, and then anything after you can refer to it by name.
Or the name.
Yeah, I think
something.
it's the same. It's the same identical concept that I have in the AI settings. Same exact thing.
That would be great if it matched whatever the Azure SDK comes up after the same logic. Because I want to be any change. But yeah, that's the idea. So have a separate section, and then from Redis, you can go into nothing if you don't have a custom name, and it will just take the credentials from there. Or yeah.
And then when we load them, we can load them as named options. So that way each set of options will be named, like in this case, will be called default. And then you'll be able to get whichever one you want.
Maybe you need that just and then stay with this one.
Or Azure credential, something, yeah.
So yeah, man. Yeah. Something, or maybe it's like true. And then something else optional that would say like something like that. Okay, optionally, like if you say true, it will bind that, the default. And then if you say, oh, but I want to use this one, and then it will also bind this one. And if this one needs to override the provider, then it will define the provider in this one. That's what I can think of right now. It needs to be discussed. Azure CLI. Yeah, even defining what strings you will provide here. Like instead of the full name, they will go with that. So yeah, so I will paste it just to give you some ideas and see what you want to do with that. Okay, it's time to go. Nice discussion. I will talk about it with some colleagues.
Sounds good. I'll update it too.
Thank you.
I'll update it. Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.